Mr. Grimmett. You look really happy today.
You know what? I actually am. I know I can be a bit morose and a bit down sometimes.
Yeah, like most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. I genuinely feel, after reading Christmas Carol, I genuinely feel more upbeat. I just feel like I'm really positive.
Oh, that's really good. It's really good to be positive, yeah.
I feel a little bit like Scrooge does at the end, I feel like, I want to make people feel happy.
You've been transformed.
A little bit. I genuinely do feel like that. Where's Miss Graham anyway?
Oh, she's just running a couple minutes late. She texted me, she'll be here in a minute.
Oh, God. Do you know what would be funny?
What?
If when she comes in, I pretend to be like how I usually am, just like really like kind of annoyed and angry, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when she comes in, and then I'll just go like, and then I'll just pretend, I'll reveal that I'm actually, a decent person.
I mean, yeah, you can give that a try.
Cool. I'm gonna do it. It'll be funny. Right. Okay. When's she coming? Oh.
Hi guys. Hiya. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
Where have you been?
What do you mean, where have I been?
We've been waiting here for ages. Why are you late?
Right, no, I had enough of this now, Mr. Grimmett. This is ridiculous. Every week I'm here on time. Every single week I'm here on time. And you, every week, you talk over me. You come in here. You give me funny looks when I make really good points. And I'm done. I'm quite frankly, I'm done. This is ridiculous now. I'm sick of working this hard for you to have a go at me. Because what? I'm a couple of minutes late.
I was joking. I wasn't really angry.
Well, anyway, Merry Christmas, guys.
Not sure I want to do the podcast now.
Cracking conversation, analytical interpretation, and igniting imagination with the Little Land Gang.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Little Land Gang, where this week we are talking about the final stave, Stave 5 of A Christmas Carol. With you this week, you have myself, Miss Graham.
You have myself, Miss Battiste. And what seems to resemble the dying Mr. Grimmett.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit wounded by those things that Miss Graham was saying about me.
Is that why you've been in a bad mood? Are you building into a character?
I've been in a bad mood ever since.
Oh dear.
Anyway, should we get this done? Should we get this over?
I guess like the way you speak about somebody.
Such a charming man.
Christmas Carol really changed me around, but now I've had enough. Let's get this over. Let's get Christmas over with. And let's bring on January. Dark and dismal month.
Oh, goodness me. I thought this was going to be a joyful podcast. Maybe not. Right.
No.
I haven't done the hot seat yet, so I will do... I've really set myself up easily here. Because
Stave 5 is the shortest stave.
It's the shortest stave and very little happens, so I figure I can probably do this quite comfortably.
And we hope so.
I haven't
ready.
revised.
Crafty. Very.
You ready?
Count me in.
Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
So Stave starts with Scrooge waking up and he's joyous and happy. He frisks, he dances, he looks out the window, he realises it's Christmas Day and he goes to the window and he asks the boy to go get a turkey from the shop and deliver it to Bob Cratchit. He dances downstairs, even so much so while he's shaving. He worries about him cutting himself. He pays for the turkey. He goes to church. He goes to Fred's. He's a little bit nervous before knocking and going in. He then goes to work and pretends the next day that he is going to be angry with Bob and be his normal self, but actually he's not. Gives Bob a pay rise and gets more coal and Tiny Tim doesn't die. God bless us, everyone.
Wow, that was exactly 31 seconds.
That was impressive.
Impressive.
It was a super short stave.
You even did the details and got it all in.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'm showing off.
Right. We've had like 5 weeks to practice.
I've had five
Every
weeks
day.
to watch other people fail to know what I'm going to do.
Except Miss Gray, she didn't fail.
She didn't fail. She did really well. And now it's time for Scrooge and Friends.
Scrooge and Friends.
You didn't even need to ask today.
I didn't ask, you on it straight away. Yay!
My Christmas gift to you.
Thank you very much.
Didn't have to ask for a
I
jingle.
feel better already. Which makes up for that slanderous statements earlier.
Can I just highlight, just before we go into this, you asked me to do that. It was your idea to do that as an intro, and now I've done it. I feel like I'm getting shade.
Shame.
You only ever get offended when a part of it's true.
No, I know. She found it too easy. So I did say, wouldn't it be funny if you
I was coming off the back of a bad
insulted me.
lesson, so it was natural.
There was more than I thought there. I mean, there was more Arsenal there.
Glaring.
So Stave 5, really, I mean, it's Scrooge and Friends, but we're mostly going to be focusing on Scrooge.
Yes.
And his
that
redemption.
allegory, yeah, absolutely. I think Dickens may be focusing on Scrooge mostly at the end because he represents all in himself at this point. So the fact that he's been called man throughout the entire rest of the text and things like that, and now he represents how we should be and how we should be feeling. It should be a very cathartic kind of feeling when we get to Scrooge. So of course it's all about him, and we actually don't really see in great detail the ramifications of his actions, but that's because we don't need to see it. We know he's changed and we believe it.
I think because a lot of kids, if you're basing it on the Muppets Christmas Carol, which is amazing, but he goes to the Cratchit's house at the end of that, which he doesn't in this. You don't need to see him deliver that turkey. You just know that the turkey's been delivered and he's done the right thing.
But it's also not about the glory as well. Like, he's not in it to be like, I've sent you that turkey.
I always imagine what Bob must have thought when this turkey comes up, because he hasn't said it's from Scrooge. Just this massive turkey arrives at the door. Would you not be a bit suspicious?
No, no. No one's ever done that for me.
Gift horse mouth. I would be like, yes, please. Yeah. As long as it's cooked, I don't want to cook it myself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. I also love as well the way this stave, literally, it is straight following on from Stave 4. So he ends with the dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, the bedpost was his own.
So does Stave 3 into Stave 4, actually. But I suppose that's a way of building up the pace, isn't it? The sense that things aren't stopping. It's a snowball.
I think as well, he's not getting bigger. I mean, he's not had any rest at all, which ironically is what he said he'd need in Stave 2. He said when they said for your well-being and he was or welfare, and he's like, well, a good night's rest will do me that. Ironically, he's not had any rest, and his welfare is better.
And I suppose being stereotypical, old people need a lot of rest, don't they? But
no,
I think
actually, the older you get, the less sleepy.
Okay, then ignore that. Scrap that. I don't know.
People slept a lot.
No, seriously. The older you get, literally, older, like not like older.
My nanny goes to sleep at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I don't know when she gets up
either way, he doesn't appear to have needed that rest. He has been. Before we go into the details of whose grandparents sleeps for longer. He doesn't need that rest, and he wakes up the next day and he's full of energy and full of beans. Like we said, he frisks, which is leaping and skipping, and I love it with the fact that he's shaving, and it's like, that's a dangerous task to do, because bear in mind they don't have razors. They'd be doing that with a knife, so he's got a knife at his throat. So you're like, that's quite dangerous, and he's doing it while dancing, and still doesn't cut himself, perhaps as symbolic of he's, saved. But more
symbolic of him being brilliant at shaving.
He's an expert shaver. Yeah, it's like the new Sweeney Todd without the death.
Right.
It's just an overall. It's a stave of happiness. When we read it, and I love reading it to the kids. Like, it is just so happy because he is genuinely relieved, and he's genuinely excited at being saved. Because he thinks at the end of Stave 4 that this is it. Like, you know what I mean? If that ghost had said to him, well, actually, no, like, this is the end of the line, he's literally facing death. So imagine being pardoned and then just actually getting the chance to start again, and all that imagery of being like an innocent child and things like
and that plays into that contrast, doesn't it? So we have those similes that are used at the beginning of the stave, which are things such as, I'm as light as a feather, I'm as happy as an angel, I'm as merry as a schoolboy, I'm as giddy as a drunken man. And when you compare those similes to the similes of him in Stave 1, which are as hard and sharp as a flint that never struck out a generous fire, and as solitary as an oyster, both of those are negative. They are visually unattractive. They are things that are weighed down, and then obviously the idea of being chained down later in the stave, all of that combined to now images, connotations of light and feather is angelic and beautiful, but equally angels as well. But these are things that fly and lift.
He's become a bit like Tiny Tim. Like Tiny Tim was. I was reading Stave 4 the other day, which said Bob Cratchit walks a lot faster when he's got Tiny Tim on him,
slower when he
he's slower when he doesn't have him. So Tiny Tim is not only light, but he actually lessens the burden of others by his mere presence. Scrooge, same thing as you're saying at the beginning. He's very heavy. There's a lot of semantic.
I think as well the verbs as well, like you're talking about frisked and danced and things like that. When you place them alongside the squeezing, wrenching, grasping bit from Stave 1, they're all like frisking and stuff. It is a very like interesting action. It's quick. It's on the same level as like wrenching, but it's positive.
It's this idea, isn't it? It's childlike. Everything he's doing is somewhat childlike because it's like he's been reborn. There's that bit where he says, "I am quite a baby. Yes, I'd rather be a baby." He has been reborn. This is a new man. This isn't the one that went to bed with his gruel.
It's a story of hope, isn't it? If he is every man, as you say, then it's showing us all that we can all be reborn if we want to.
And he drags those vows in, doesn't he, from the end of Stave 4, where he like vows that he's going to change. And we were talking about it in the masterclass, the idea of that will, like again, like he's making a formal pledge. And then he says it again, I will keep the spirits, they will live on within me. And so again, it's like vowing. It is a contract to Scrooge.
It's that marriage again, isn't it? This is where we see him act on that marriage.
So basically, it's a little baby getting married. to himself.
No, I guess you could talk about the idea that he divorces himself from the person he was. And changes completely and enters in this new contract or new bargain.
I do like the idea of marriage because it's very much a religious.
And it also links in,
act,
off the top of my head, doesn't he say to Fred at the beginning, why did you get married?
Yeah.
And this idea that he views almost, I mean, not quite the same, but this union is like, why did you get married? And it's like, well, because I fell in love. And Scrooge, maybe that hurts him a little bit because of the Bell situation.
It's the only thing more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah. But now he's married in a different sort. He's married to a new self and a new future and a new path.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you think about his mindset before and the idea of all of his lexic, like, choices being about counting, being about money and contracts and things being very binding. The fact that he doesn't enter into a marriage and he sees it as silly, it's like he doesn't see that as an actual contract. It doesn't count.
And then he's so, what I was going to say, it's because he's so similar to Fred in this, Stave, that he's,
Laugh.
really for a man who'd been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh, a most illustrious laugh, the father of a long, long line of brilliant laughs. Illustrious laugh is literally how Fred's is described in Stave 3, right? So we have that real similarity that he's now more like his nephew than we've seen him before.
Yeah, Fred foreshadows his later transformation, certainly, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
Which is wonderful, because Fred's such a great character.
He is. And
Such
I like
a
the fact
good
that
guy.
he helps out the Cratchits in Stave 4, at least Bob says he bumped into Fred. And Fred didn't really know him very well, but he offers to help in any way he can.
And he
One
offers
thing as
sympathy,
well with that,
like genuine
yeah.
sympathy.
Genuine feeling. He also says that, and we didn't mention it with Stave 4, but they say, I somewhat hope you might be able to offer Master Peter a position.
Yeah.
So a potential job, which again is generous of Fred, but also I think it does, also highlight that the working classes, they weren't looking for handouts, they were looking for work.
Yeah.
It wasn't that they were going to look for Fred for money, which he
No.
could give by this point if he's inherited. They were going to look for work, and
Yeah,
Fred
that's
would give that
right.
because he's a lovely man. He's also, Fred himself in this Stave, you were saying he says bless us in this
Bless-
Stave.
oh,
He
bless me, who's that? Or
says, he
bless-
says, bless me, but as does the portly gentleman, the charity collectors, when Scrooge offers the money and whispers in his ear how much he would give. And I like the fact that he whispers in the ear. I think Miss Battiste already said that the reason I think Dickens shows him not going to the Cratchits, because then it's almost like he's kind of boasting and showing off, here's the goose I've got, please everyone thank me. But he doesn't actually go to the Cratchits, he just offers this, doesn't actually say who it's from. And here it's the same thing, where he doesn't shout out how much he's giving them, he's not showing off. He's just doing it because it's the right thing to do, and he's not doing it with any reward.
There's no glory to it.
There's no glory. That's
That
right.
even we, the reader, are kept out of exactly how much he gives. Because it's not the fact of, obviously it's clearly quite an amount by their reaction. But that's not the point. It doesn't matter how much it is. It's the fact that he's done it. Had he given £1 or £50, it's the fact that Scrooge now gives money and is willing
That's
to
right.
make that change.
Yeah, it is all about, it's not about how much you give either. It's not the focus on the money where everything for him was focusing on money in the beginning. It is just that act of giving and like giving whatever you can. So we don't really care that we don't hear exactly how much. We can infer that it's a significant amount because of the reaction of the portly gentleman. But realistically, that's not the point. The point Dickens is trying to get across is be charitable, whatever that looks like, whether it's your time, whether it's your money, things like that.
So, absolutely. I think you said Fred uses bless me, it's the connotations of religion, and so do the portly gentlemen, they say bless me.
There's a religious element throughout the entirety of the Stave, which we'll come to in the big ideas, but I think even the fact that Scrooge even goes to church on Christmas morning, I think aligning him with, I want to say, like, Christian values, because I think that's a lot of what Dickens is talking about. Ironically, Dickens I don't think feels you need to go to church to do that, but I think it just is a way of showing the reader he is now a Christian man. He's going to live by Christian values of love thy neighbour and take care of one another by having him go to church. And it's always, the church bells are described as the lusty peal of bells. Yeah. So again, they're like full of life and full of giving, because Scrooge has woken up on this, and then the weather. He's woken up and it's a clear, bright day, unlike the future he saw in Stave 4.
I mean, this is a great example of a kind of cyclical, circular structure, isn't it? With that structure of him revisiting everybody that he's seen before, but just in order to highlight how much he's changed, and that pathetic fallacy, just the backdrop being so different as well.
And I think in that cyclical structure, we could talk about him going from being a passive character to an active character, like we were talking about, because last time everyone came to him. Stave 1 pretty much took place inside his property or his place of work, and now he's out on the streets of London. He sees the charity collectors. He goes to church. He sends the goose. He goes to Fred. So we see him walking
forward,
further than I'm on the theme. Walking further than the counting house. He is now walking out on the streets of London.
He goes forth in life, so he won't have to go forth in death.
Well,
there we
so
go.
good.
Done. A-level response. Boom.
And then of course, I suppose the last character we'd talk about is Bob.
Yeah, because of course I feel like even as a reader we need to see Bob. We need to have that resolution with him, and this idea that like we don't need to know exactly what went on that Christmas Day, but we want to see that interaction between those two characters because they're going to go forward working together and things like that.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's late, we're almost chuffed for him as well, and we're like excited with Scrooge because we know what Scrooge is doing.
So when Scrooge was what we were doing in the intro, wasn't it? I mean, him pretending to be
the dramatic irony.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dramatic irony of that. Bob doesn't know, but we do as a reader.
I love Bob's reaction.
We're actually in on a joke with Scrooge. It's amazing.
Scrooge is making a joke, and we're there with him. I love the way that it said something like he wanted to grab the ruler, which is interesting because that's what Scrooge wanted to do to the caroller in Stave 1, and now Bob thinks about it when he's like, I'm going to raise your salary, hey. And then Bob's like, do I need to hit this guy on the head or something happened, or maybe I should take him to an asylum? Like this change is so drastic, and then we just have Scrooge with all of this incredibly, I feel the language is warm, and that's in contrast to, and literally with him saying, buy another coal scuttle. So the physical warmth, and also the words, a Merry Christmas, Bob, said Scrooge, with an earnestness that could not be mistaken, and clapped him on the back. The physicality, he's now touching him. And I think, I mean, his change, his transformation is staggering.
Yeah.
And we don't hear a lot from Bob because it's a shock, and also there's nothing to say.
Bob isn't the focus. It's Scrooge making the change that will make the Bob change. Well, Bob didn't need to change; he was already there. So the focus kind of has to remain. Even a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop. Look at all those words that we associated with Fred.
Smoking, heat. His breath smokes, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the last thing that he says, as you say, make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I. Bob Cratchit! Exclamation.
So it's putting that warmth before
heat.
the work. And I think that might be the very first time in his whole life.
Before the work,
that
that's
he's
absolutely
done that.
right.
Yeah.
And the way that he
love
says,
before labour.
Yeah, and I will endeavour to assist your struggling family. Again, it's that idea of him being endeavour, hard work, active work, but he's willing to do it.
And you can contrast it absolutely with what he said in the beginning about your or you with only 15 bob between you and a family to support, or something he says like that in the Stave 1. So he actually he knows in Stave 1 that his family's struggling, but he doesn't use the word struggle. He says, like, oh, you shouldn't be wishing Merry Christmas. You only make £15 pounds a week, and you've got family. It's about the money. So then when he makes that statement here in this one, it's not about the money. It's endeavouring to help that struggling family. And then it's the focus on the struggle. It's not on the money itself.
Yeah.
That's right, absolutely.
And then we end on of Tiny Tim, who did not die, and he became that second father.
Who became immortal.
Yeah.
In a way, he does, because we're still...
The message still goes on.
Still reading this today. People are still... There's new plays being created.
Oh, God, yeah, there's a new adaptation coming out, isn't there?
It's
Oliver Twist, sorry.
Was A Christmas Carol not in the news last year when we were talking?
It was, because the question to Boris Johnson and the other guy, Jeremy Corbyn, was that what would you get each other for Christmas? And Jeremy Corbyn, a Labour leader,
said a copy of Christmas Carol.
Says he would get a copy of Christmas Carol for Boris Johnson.
I mean, it's a beautiful little... I think every English teacher in the world was just like, that's so clever. That's such a clever response.
Yeah.
So Tiny Tim doesn't die. People laugh. I think even the fact that people laugh to see the alteration in him and he doesn't care because he's like, they're going to laugh, whatever.
That bit. I love that bit. There will always be somebody that laugh at you for whatever you choose to do. So why not just let them laugh?
Yeah,
just get on with it.
They're going to laugh anyway. I'm still going to be who I am.
Whatever you want.
I'm still going to be a good man. And then we end on that beautiful God bless us everyone. The words of Tiny Tim echoed here by the narrator. Yeah. But equally, I suppose it's the idea that we bless Scrooge.
And we have a narrator who's come back because the narrator wasn't in Stave 4.
They disappeared.
They weren't really an active part of Stave 4 because it was more focusing on what was going on with Scrooge. So having the narrator step out, we kind of then get what the author's trying to say, almost directly from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the final section is the big ideas.
Big ideas!
I was saying it with such a tentative nature in case you were going to do that. So the themes, I suppose you could argue really, most of the key themes of the entire text are present Let's say 5. One of my posters has fallen down. I was about to look up at my key themes, but one of them's fallen down. But they're mostly going to be present here. But that, of course, the idea of redemption.
Yes.
Christianity.
Yep.
I mean, what that means to be a good Christian.
Charity.
They all come
Poverty,
back, don't they?
Is in there.
Yeah, so any
Family.
single one of those. But I think really maybe a little more out there is that idea of fate, and the idea that fates can be tied together. The idea that Scrooge and Tiny Tim are somehow bound to one another. Their fates are intertwined. If one dies, the other dies. If one prospers, the other prospers.
It has that idea of society being like something that needs to work together instead of like against. And I think this is Dickens really pointing out, especially to the upper classes, that our actions and those actions of those people have reactions, and those in turn have also reactions.
He's unifying the upper or middle classes and the working classes. He's making a connection between them. Like, you are connected to them whether you like it or not, and what you do and you say will affect those below you,
and it also affects like your mortal soul.
Yeah,
and, like things
absolutely.
like that.
All of it combined. It's like you can't. We are. You were going to say about the Fred quotation, weren't you? We're not.
We're not.
We're fellow passengers.
Yes, I was going to try to end on it in a really kind of impressive.
We could still end on
enlightening
it.
way.
We could still end on it, but it's the idea, isn't it?
We're in
we're
this
together. We're all in this together.
I think so. I think as a family.
Insert meme of High School Musical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we sing that?
No.
Okay. I think family is a huge theme. Obviously, you've got redemption, improving himself, and you've got the religious aspects you mentioned earlier. But I think it feels like family is the main thrust of this. You've got the Cratchits demonstrating the value of family all the way through. And it kind of finishes, doesn't it, with Scrooge becoming a second father to Tiny Tim. Mm-hmm. Very much Dickens saying that family should not be linked purely by those, who have got a blood connection.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's what you said, isn't it? Family isn't just blood; it's who you choose to be with and the connections you make.
That's right. And as Fred says, it's not to see other people as other creatures bound on other journeys, but actually to see us all as fellow passengers to the grave.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful end, and I suppose that is the end of our Christmas Carol staves that we're going to be looking at for a little while. So it leaves nothing to say but God bless us, everyone.
Yeah.
What? We wanted such a good ending, and we end on all right.
That's all right.
God bless us, everyone. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Little Guy.